All right, this is Business AM. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. We start with the Metropol review this morning. Here's the thing. Today it is Investments Monday, and so after this, we're going to be joined in the studio by another mind as we tell you where to put your money. Most things are happening in the economy, and there are a lot of things that you are waking up to this morning. All right, so I'll take my time to take you through the top 7. All right, here's the thing. My director tells me that our screen this morning is not linking up to the Metropol terminal. He's been trying to work on it since morning, but the harvest is not linking up. So here's the thing. We go the manual way. All right, let me just take you through a couple of those that we wake up to this morning. Here's the thing. You're going to wake up to the news that Beijing travels to pave way for 350 billion SGR loan. Sugar imports from Uganda rise 30 times in 2 months. Burnt sugarcane crisis rocks Busia as well. Is a blame game tussle in the sugar sector in the country. All right, Qatar investors eye trade deals with Kenya visit. Here's the thing. Cost of living jumps up. Another thing you're waking up to, Brexit wrangles. The effects they could have to Kenya. We're just waiting for April 12th. Is it going to be possible or not? Bank CEOs might now be jailed for denying SMEs loans. What is transpiring in the banking sector in the country? Mobile money services to be registered as banks. Are we going to have M-Pesa Bank? That is what you're waking up to this morning. And so joining us this morning again, I know we had him during the launch of Metropol TV. Guess what? Due to public demand, he's back. He is back. And you're going to see him more often, all right? So as we go through these headlines with them this morning. Bonamahori, thank you very much for coming. How are you feeling today?
Feeling good. Much better than last time.
Much better than last time.
Yes.
Yes, this should be your home.
Definitely.
This should be your home.
It's our prayer, actually.
All right.
Yes.
Business environment this weekend, what were you up to?
A lot.
Other than going to church on Sunday. I know you went to
No,
church
a lot.
on Sunday.
We're doing a lot in the real estate.
Yes.
And of course, a few other things that we do as we prepare for the week.
As we prepare for the week as well.
Yes.
All right, here's the thing. First headline that we're waking up to this morning. Beijing travel to pave way for 350 billion SGR loan. Here's the thing. People have spoken about this. The news have not even cut even from the first project. Before we know it, we might be getting 350 billion shillings SGR loan. Is there something that the government knows? Is there something that economists like you know about SGR that a common Mwananchi like me doesn't know?
I think SGR as a project is a good project for this country because we've been crying for good infrastructure. And away from the road infrastructure, we know that the railway network is something that is critical for us. So it's good that it's happening. Of course, we become worried as Kenyans when we look at the figures involved.
Yes.
But I believe as a country, it's something that we can be able to sail through in terms of repayments. But it will be a struggle for us.
It will be a struggle for us.
Yes.
Is it something that we really need? When you look at the sectors that are suffering in this country, does transport, because I want to put it there, does transport and SGR stand out as a sustainable project for Kenya? Is it, don't we need something that gives it quick returns?
As a country, we have to do a mix of projects that, of course, bring in quick returns and projects that are long-term in nature. So it also depends on the kind of political class that we have at that time and the focus they want to put on. Because when you look back at our former President Kibaki, there are projects that he wanted to focus on. and that is where invested in. The current president has also put his energies in specific projects, things that he actually wants to actualize.
Yes.
And I know SGR is one of them, because the idea is to push SGR to Malaba so that we can be able to allow Uganda and Rwanda be able to use our infrastructure. And it's a good thing that we have the project. If you've used the SGR from Mombasa to Nairobi, then you realize that it's something that we actually need.
Yes.
As much as we complain of speeds and the kind of locomotives that we ended up with, which are a bit old, we hope that it's something that we can be able to upgrade in future,
Yes.
but it's a step forward as a country.
Let's talk about news that we are actually trading on a 5.6 trillion budget public debt.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So when a mwananchi like me looks at this, and I know that at the end of the day, the money in my pocket is the same one that the government is going to use to figure out how to solve this issue. But then news again is that we are going for more loans for SGR. So when you look at the long-term information, how we're going to pay this public debt and these loans, is that not something that also the government should actually be investing in? Let everybody know that yes, we're going for it, but this is exactly what we're going to pay for it. Because my fear comes from these headlines: 5.6, and then 350 billion. We expect more. We do expect more. Yes.
No, I think the economy has expanded over time. When you look at our economy 10 years ago and where we are now, we've expanded the economy well. And in terms of tax collections, the government is also trying to be efficient. So we, as Kenyans, should not be so worried on how we will repay the loans, because the government will repay the loans through our taxes. What we should be focused on as Kenyans, and that's what we've been telling people every day, is how these monies are being used. Because the moment you have an appetite for a loan, you can't move away from it. And no nation develops, no individual, me and you cannot be able to move from point A to point B in terms of development without taking a loan. Unless then, of course, you have access to the dirty money.
Yes.
So loans are necessary for a nation to develop. The challenge that we've had in Kenya is that we've had so much inefficiency in terms of how these monies are being put into use, including, of course, 10% kickbacks and inflated prices. So we will end up with a project of 300 billion, which could have actually costed probably 180 or 200. That is the challenge. That at the end of the day, we'll end up paying more than actually the value that we got from the project.
Yes.
Yes.
And so when you look at these headlines, therefore, the end question is this.
Yes.
And I want you to answer it maybe for the last time on this,
Yes.
because I know next week again we are going to get into it.
Yes.
Should we celebrate when we hear we're getting more loans, or should we fear?
We should fear as taxpayers.
Yes.
That the moment another loan is taken, it's of course a bigger liability for us in terms of repayment. But we should then again celebrate when we see this money being put into good use and we having the kind of infrastructure we want, because we want to create jobs, and we can only create jobs through such investments. So in terms of repayment, it's something that all of us should actually fear. But then in terms of good investments of the money, and we see that money being put into good use, then we should actually be able to celebrate.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's therefore move swiftly to the next one. Sugar industry in the country.
Yes.
A lot of questions on it, a lot of history on it, good and bad. This is what we have. Sugar imports from Uganda rise 30 times in 2 months. All right? And then burnt sugarcane crisis rocks both your sugar company. And then there's a blame game tussle. Before we even delve into this headline that we're waking up to this morning,
Yes.
what do you make of the sugar industry in Kenya? Is it dead?
Close to there.
Close
Part
to
of
dead?
it is actually dead,
Yes.
probably waiting for burial.
Yes.
Some of it is just surviving,
Yes.
probably at stage 4, stage 5 of the kind of ailment that faces the sugar industry.
Uh-huh.
And it's sad that that is how
It is sad.
Yes.
If you look at the big four agenda, food security is top.
Yes.
And I would like to think that farming and sugar should be among the key agendas, isn't it? But then another headline comes up. As we are fighting for food security in the country, by ourselves, sugar imports from Uganda, and the cheap sugar imports from Uganda rise 30 times in 2 months. What do you read into this? Are we killing ourselves?
Yeah, as a nation, we've not focused on developing local industries. And we've killed almost every single local industry that we had, that we've been enjoying for the last 30 or 40 years. And the president of Uganda even mentioned something on the Webuye pan paper, the factory that used to be there back then when he was in school. That does not exist right now. The same has happened to the sugar industry. So we talk about food security when our thinking is about importing. We are not looking at how we can be able to develop the local industries, try to bail out the sugar factories that we have, and all the companies that we have that are actually involved in manufacturing, so that they can be able to manufacture, to try to promote agriculture, so that we can be able then to have, other than food security, ensuring that there are jobs in the country. But that is what is happening, and that's what we need to actually be able to address.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's talk about government controls. This is the headline that we have. We had in excess of sugar in the country, that is in terms of imports, actually 300,000 tons of sugar in excess of what we need to sustain as imports. So hold on to that, because I'm going to ask you about regulation. All right, we continue. Most of this would come from Brazil.
Yes.
Okay, let's hold on. Tanzania gives a ban to sugar imports from Uganda. But for us, we're encouraging them. You saw the other day when Museveni was in the country, we said we're going to import more.
Yes.
It's barely 2 days. The headline is, there is more. So I want you to tell me, what is Tanzania saying that we are not saying from Uganda?
No, Tanzania has been extreme when it comes to decisions.
Yes.
When it comes to their neighbors. But when you look at how commerce has been set up, we are actually being allowed to get sugar from the Comesa region without tariff, without taxes, without duty and the rest.
Yes.
Which is a good thing, because then we should be able to get cheap sugar from within the Comesa. And when you read through the news, Tanzania has been doing a lot of imports from Uganda. But I think at one point they said, we don't want to do it. But then again, you have to look at the reality. There's consumption, there's demand. How much can you be able to produce? So if you have a shortage of 200,000 or 300,000 metric tons of sugar that is needed in the country, you actually have to import. And the first country that you should be able to look at is your neighbor. Before you travel thousands of miles away to Brazil to bring in sugar, you need to look at your neighbors. What do they have? If they have excess, then you should be able to get that from them. And Uganda has been good in that. They are focused on the sugar industry and they are doing very well in terms of production. They actually have so much that they can be able to bring to Kenya and Tanzania, which is a good thing for the country and for East Africa as a region, because we want to open the East African region in terms of free movement of goods and services. But the challenge is, why can't we do it? We are the big brother in East Africa. We have farms in Western Kenya. We have almost 11 sugar factories. Why can't we do it? Why can't we be the ones who are exporting sugar to Tanzania, to Rwanda and the rest?
A good question, because that's the next point of conversation. Here is the thing. We've seen crisis in the sugar industry in Kenya. We've seen other companies close. We've seen other companies survive by the mouth. And then another headline that we're waking up is that it's burnt sugar cane crisis rocks Busia sugar. All right? Farmers woke up to burning sugar cane. So I want you to interpret for me, what is really going on? Why are we burning our sugar cane? What should you think about it?
The first thing I'll want to look at is, of course, the regulation in terms of control by the government.
Yes.
The government, the way the government is set up, government is not set up to actually be in profit-making businesses. It is supposed to be offering service. And the idea that the government has control of some of the sugar industries is something that we have to move away. We need to fully privatize that industry. Then the government has a support structure to those companies. And that is what people have been crying for all along. When you also look at statistics, in Kenya, we rely on small-scale farmers. Actually, small-scale farmers supply up to 90% of the raw material to the sugar factories. Look at South Africa, which is doing a lot in terms of sugar, and I think Malawi, it is 90% of the sugar is being supplied by big farms. So the small-scale farmer only accounts for 10%. So right now, there's a lot of tussle in Western Kenya in terms of who can be able to access what product.
Yes.
Because we have private sugar factories that have been set up. We have some that traditionally have been there, and the fight is now for the farmer. So that fight is probably what has led to what you're seeing.
The headlines that we're waking up each morning of farmers having their sugar can be burnt in Busia. Let's close this conversation therefore by asking, where do we go next?
We need to sit back and look at our industries, especially industries that touch on agriculture, and actually be able to realize that we need to improve those industries. These are the kind of things that the president should be focusing on. Away from the big talk of the Big Four agenda, we need to be as simplistic as possible. Look at things that we were doing well 30 years ago that we are not doing now. Once we can be able to get the problem where it is, the underlying issues, we can easily be able to address them. And those are the kind of things that we call low-lying fruits.
Yes.
Things that we can benefit from quickly without having to set a new industry because they're already existing. Yes.
All right. Qatar investors eye trade deals with Kenya visit. We know that entourage is in the country, all right? They come to look into areas in the country where they can put their money and support this country. If you were told today to tell them this is exactly what you need, what would you suggest for them to help us put a check on this economy?
First, I will be very worried because when you look at Qatar as a nation,
Yes.
they fully rely on oil.
Yes.
Probably 90 or 95% of the economy is actually driven by the oil wells that they have. And of course, what they have managed to do as a nation is they have managed to take revenue from the oil and invest in technology and so many other sectors.
Yes.
So then the first question that you want to ask yourself is, what can we be able to really benefit from a country like Qatar? Other than probably injection of capital to the country to specific sectors. That is what we hope they can be able to do. But then again, on the flip side, you can be able to realize that Qatar has invested a lot in fertilizers. So if they can be able to come in handy and want to assist us in that sector, that is something that the agricultural sector can be able to benefit. And probably technology in agriculture that can also be able to improve the yield from the farmers. But the focus, of course, is probably businessmen from Qatar who have excess in their country, and they're looking at areas where they can be able to invest, especially in housing, which is one of the Big Four agendas, and ensure that their nation, of course, gets a return.
Yes.
But it's a good thing because we're always looking for foreign direct investment.
Yes.
And if Qatar wants to come to our country, invest in our country, in our own rules, then it's okay.
Then it's okay.
Yes.
I think I'll take you back. Our relations stem back to 2003.
Yes.
That's when we established the relationship.
Yes.
Guess what? It is 16 years later.
Yes.
That's when they step into the country. Is there any reading we can make into this? Why 16 years later? It's been that long.
No, I think it has been long because Qatar has also been trying to discover themselves and also invest in their country.
Yes.
Because Qatar is not a country that you will say is as old as the United Kingdom or the US. They just started the other day. And they have managed to reach the level they are now in the last maybe 10 or 20 years. So I think it's now that they have realized that now we've done enough in our country. We've invested enough in our country. Can we be able to go out there, look at alternative markets? Because we can have so much, but if we're not investing it out there, then we won't have a return.
Yes.
So this is the time. And Kenya becomes a perfect country for them, especially when they want to enter Africa, the East and Central Africa region. We become the perfect target for those countries. Yes.
I would like to think that before you pick an investment partner or a relationship partner in that end, you will look at exactly what they're going to offer, what they're going to bring on the table. I mean, that's exactly what the government looks now. And 15 years ago, we looked at Qatar and we thought, yes, we could be partners.
Yes.
So if you travel back 15 years ago, do you think the same reason that we went for them to establish these in relationships to look forward into the future, do you still think that the same reasons exist? Have we moved away 15 years from the time that we spoke to them?
No, we haven't. We are a growing nation, and we have so much in terms of untapped resources. So nothing has changed in this country in 15 years.
Yes.
In fact, just more opportunities are springing up.
Okay.
And countries that want to invest are looking at how they can be able to take advantage of the existing opportunities in Kenya so they can be able to reap from them.
Here's the thing, let's move on to the next one. Cost of living jumps.
Yeah.
Things are not good in March. They were not good in March. We're just hoping that April, with the onset of rains, we are not seeing them much. We're just hoping that things are going to be okay. Guess what? What would you point out to be the reason as why March wasn't a good month for most Kenyans?
No, I'll want to look at the bigger picture as an economist and look at where we were in July last year
Yes.
and where we are now. we had a very bad period of between September and December when inflation went up to probably around 7%. Right now, inflation is probably at around 4%.
It's around 4%. They
And
put it at
even when you look at the
4.25.
increase, it's a very marginal increase.
Yes.
And we just hope that we can be able to have stability in terms of food prices, in terms of fuel prices, so that we then don't have a ripple effect to the economy where you have increase in prices like we saw between September and December.
Yes.
Yes. So it's a very marginal increase in terms of inflation, and I don't think it's something that should be able to worry us so much.
Yes.
Because if you look at January, February, and March, it is just oscillating around a given figure, which is a good thing.
All right.
Yes.
Let's move on to the next one. It's a big issue. Brexit. Most Kenyans don't understand it. The Britons themselves don't understand it. Not even Theresa May herself now seems to understand it. Guess what? They've kept on going and going and going about it. They only have up to April 12th, just barely 2 weeks before, whether they like it or not, they have to go out.
Yes.
Let's therefore run away from the UK and the EU.
Yes.
Bring it here. Why should I be bothered about Brexit?
No, you should be bothered because traditionally as a country, we do a lot of exports of tea and cut flowers,
Yes.
especially the flowers. Most of our flowers go to Europe, Netherlands and the UK. So if Brexit happened today, like it's about to happen in the next 12 days, the kind of deals, the kind of trade deals that we've signed with the EU will definitely be affected. Because, you know, Britain will no longer be a member of the EU.
Yes.
So then we have to renegotiate with them new trade deals. And when Theresa May came into the country, I think last year, that is the kind of assurance she wanted to give to this nation. That we are your colonies, former colonies of
Yes.
course.
Former colonies, of course.
We've invested a lot in this
Yes.
country because they have.
Yes.
And we won't let you go. That in case Brexit happens, we will still be here. We can be able to negotiate better trade terms with you because we export a lot of tea and the flowers and coffee and all those things. So the worry will be is the moment it happens, how long will it take before the two countries can be able to negotiate better trade deals? Because if it takes long, then our products will be stuck in our farms and we'll definitely lose.
Yes.
And that is the main exports that we have as a country. Yes.
Is the thing, they've taken it away from Theresa May. Now the members of parliament have control of Brexit on their hands, and they look like they don't know exactly what they want. Here's the thing, it's either they take Theresa May's deal, and she's told them, if you take my deal, then I'll step out as prime minister. Here's the thing, are we facing a situation where Brexit in the first instance was never understood by the same people, I'm talking about the citizens who voted for it?
No, Brexit happened around the same time when the US also voted in Trump.
Yes.
And for us as a growing nation, I think it was exciting.
Yes.
Because for the first time, people from a developed nation, people you strongly believe are well educated and well informed, made a decision that they did not understand so much about. And it's because of the excitement that was around the Brexit. They thought it was this is the time.
Yes.
Without having to sit down and look at what exactly were the issues, they went ahead and voted. Then later, you go to Google searches, they started actually asking themselves, what is
this
Brexit?
Isn't
And
it?
what do we stand to gain from Brexit?
Yes.
Because I thought synergy is the best thing in the world right now, trying to work together.
Yes.
And the whole idea behind forming the EU was so that the European countries can be able to have synergy when it comes to competing with the rest of the world. Look at where China is, look at where the US is. Europe, if they don't come together like they have always been, they'll struggle in the market.
Yes.
But it's happening. If they don't take Theresa May's deal, it's also a challenge for the nation.
Yes.
And for me, I believe she's done so much. She's gotten to a point where she should just actually be able to say, fine, enough is enough. Can I hand it over to someone else?
Yes.
To also try his luck if it happens. But probably she's doing it for the country. She has a deal at hand. She's presented it three times.
Presented it 3 times.
And it has been rejected.
It has been rejected those 3 times.
Yes.
But here's the thing now, she doesn't have control of it. Now she's just begging, please, take my deal. So now I want to ask you this question, therefore.
Yes.
What consequences should they not take a deal? Because we know April 12th is coming. It's very soon, just barely 2 weeks to come.
Yes.
Here's the thing, should they not take her deal?
Yes.
What consequences do they expect? Should they fall out? and that is consequently no deal Brexit. We are out without a deal.
No, if I want to look at it from the point of Kenya as a country, because
Yes.
that is what actually should be able to we focus on.
Uh-huh.
And the first thing that we of course expect is what I've said. We will have delays in new trade deals. The other thing is that we may see a situation whereby there's a very big depreciation in the currency, in the UK currency, that's the British pound, and that actually may affect us as a nation, because again, tourism is a key income earner for this country. If the pound depreciates so much, we may not see so many people coming into the country because of the worries they have as tourists, and we'll get to be affected. But on the flip side, we also get to benefit because we'll be trying to negotiate deals directly with the UK,
Yes.
which is a good thing for us.
Yes.
Because we may be able to get better deals from the UK directly than from the European Union.
Yes.
Yes. And our hope is that either way, we stand to benefit from the market called Europe.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to the next one now. Bank CEOs might now be jailed for denying SMEs loans. Here's the thing. I don't know whether I'm allowed to say this, but from what I know is the banks are not go slow in this country. The cap rate laws, they are not exerting them. And last week, the main lending rate put at 9%. Not good for Kenyan banks. Where do we go from here? What are we talking about in the banking sector? What is the Central Bank of Kenya really trying to achieve with these sort of laws and the rules that they're invoking from the banking sector?
They're looking at statistics.
Yes.
And the statistics paint a grim picture when it comes to borrowing by the SMEs.
Uh-huh.
The moment there was an interest rate cap in the country, banks went on a go-slow to give loans to the SMEs, of course, because of the risks involved. Remember, before we had the interest rate caps, banks used to apply some kind of risk factor
Yes.
to the loans. So it was a base rate and a risk factor. The risk factor right now is only maintained at 4%. They can't go beyond that.
Yes.
Back then, some of us were borrowing from the banks at 20 or 24% because of the risk factor, but people were accessing credit. But the moment there were the interest rate caps, the bank shied away from the SMEs, because SMEs, most of them do not have security and they have a high risk of default. Remember, the SMEs are the ones that are driving the economy.
Yes.
That is where we expect to see so many jobs in terms of job creation.
Yes.
And the growth of the economy. So the moment you stifle SMEs out of credit, then you expect, of course, a go-slow in terms of economic growth. And that is what the central bank is trying to address. And probably how they should have done it, they should have actually went in for a regulation that a given percentage of loan portfolios for every bank must go to SMEs.
Should go to SMEs.
10 or 15%.
10 or 15%. So do you think, therefore, it makes sense for you to force a CEO for certain bank somewhere,
Yes.
like there's somebody who's applied for a loan, while you're not giving them that loan, therefore they're coming for you, you have to go to jail because of that. Do you think it makes sense? Do you think the banks, therefore, have a point in this struggle?
They have a point. Banks are business, they're business entities.
Uh-huh.
They have shareholders who expect a return.
Yes.
And they are not, CEOs are not going to sit back and report losses just because they want to please the government. That is the situation.
Yes.
They have to look for a way of ensuring that they are profitable year in, year out.
Uh-huh.
So if the kind of regulations that the government is bringing in may end up putting banks at a risk of making losses out of course, non-performing loans,
Yes.
I don't think they'll take it lightly
Yes.
as banks. And remember, we are operating in a liberal market. We should let the banks run the way they are. That is why the banks are saying, can we do away with the interest rate caps? Because we are where we are because of the interest rate caps.
Yes.
Had it not been for that, then we could not have challenges that like we have right now.
Yes.
Yes.
I really want us to put to bed this conversation because I know it's with us. Yes. We expect that in the next 12 months, and the members of parliament are going to sit again and review that before their term expires. Here's the thing. Is there something called unexplainable profit? Because that's where all this comes from. Here's the thing. The top tier banks will probably not complain much, but now these smaller banks are saying, look, we have to be in business. And that means we have to assess our risks by ourselves and then know exactly who we're giving our loans and their ability to repay. That way, it's good business.
Yes.
But is there something called bad profits in an economy?
Yeah, there are. There are bad profits, especially when you operate in an economy where you have to balance between profitability
Yes.
and giving a service to the people, because you actually exist in that environment, making huge, unexplainable profits. It's wrong. And it's the fight that Kenyans have had in the telecoms industry with Safaricom.
Yes.
It's the same fight people are having with the banks. That in between all these struggles, you cannot report profits of 19 billion. And yet you call us your clients.
Yes.
We can't access loans. You're charging us small charges left, right, and center. Proudly, you share that to your shareholders.
Yes.
That of course it's at 15% increase, and we have a 19 billion profit.
Yes.
And we exist in the same economy. The economy is struggling. Those are the challenges. But they are businesses. Their interest is making profit, and that is why the CEOs are paid top-notch salaries. Because they're able to pull off that. The biggest problem I've had with the banks is how they laid off staff over time because of the reaction from the interest rate caps.
Yes.
Laying off staff, closing of branches, and all those things. That should not have happened. They should have looked for a way of course, working within and developing products that can be able to fit within the regulations and still make profits. Yes.
All right. So should they go to jail or not?
Of course, they shouldn't go to jail. What we are doing as a country is we are overregulating things.
Yes.
We are coming, every time we have a problem, we only think of a law. So you saw one for agriculture, one for the milk industry. Now we have one for the banks. We are doing overregulation. We need to sit down as Kenyans and discuss issues which focus on building our economy,
yes,
away from threatening people to jail them.
Okay.
That should not be the case.
All right. Related to this, I want us to move to the last item on our Metropol review this morning.
Yes.
Here is the thing. Do we foresee now M-Pesa Bank as opposed to just M-Pesa? Do we see Airtel Bank as opposed to just Airtel Money? What is that okay? What do you read into this headline? Are these the banks trying to fight? Who is this coming up with this?
Again, the issue of regulation.
Yes.
As a country, we benefit a lot from innovation and technology. And innovation is what has gotten us to where we are when it comes to mobile money. So the moment we say now we want to turn these mobile money transfers to banks, we know definitely then they will be regulated by the banks, by the central bank.
Yes.
The moment that happens, we cannot be able to see the kind of push we've seen in that industry. And we are the first in the world to do the things you're doing in the mobile money market. So we have to move away from wanting to regulate them to become banks, but rather to look for a way we can regulate them within that pretext of where they operate.
Yes.
As a mobile money transfer and mobile money loans,
yes,
which we are all enjoying. Of course, as expensive as they might be, they're coming in handy. And they're, of course, fitting in gaps that, of course, have been left by the banks, which are not borrowing.
Yes.
So let's regulate, yes, but let's not turn them to banks. Because then we will have lost the concept of mobile money and mobile loans.
Yes.
Yes.
It's not the first time that this bill is being represented.
Yes.
It's not the first time that this bill is being debated. Here's the thing. Do we see it falling through?
You know, what happens is there's a lot of lobbying that happens when such bills are being presented.
Yes.
And now it will be a fight between what the banks will be offering and what the telecoms will be offering. Because I know the telecom companies will fight back and say, we want to operate as we are because we've not broken any rules.
Yes.
So we just hope within the lobbying we can be able to find a middle ground.
Yes.
Not to turn them to banks, but to have kind of regulations within their operations as mobile loans. Yes. Let banks do what they're supposed to do. Let them not try to fight back.
Of critical concern, though, we do know the largest share of this mobile money. It is just Safaricom and M-Pesa.
Yes.
Would you say that this is a bill just meant for Safaricom as opposed to other players in the market?
Of course, the other players are more insignificant when you look
Yes.
at mobile loans. Of course, right now, other than Safaricom only has Mshwari
Yes.
as a product. And there are so many others that have come in that are, of course, Branch and Talent. The rest, they're not managed by Safaricom.
Yes.
They're managed by other entities. Only that they are being run on the platform of the mobile phones.
Yes.
So it might be a fight against Safaricom, which is a dominant player in the market, which actually started a very powerful product called Fuliza.
Fuliza, because if you look at it, even all these other platforms, they also, in one way or another, send their money through M-Pesa,
Exactly.
you know? Yes.
Yes. So it is actually a fight against the kind of business they are calling more of black market kind of lending from these mobile loans entities. But let the economy continue growing. Let technology continue taking shape.
Yes.
Let's have as many products as we can have. The only discussion we should be having is Branch, Tala, and the rest should be able to charge lower interest on their loans. That is it.
That's a better conversation.
Yes.
Here's the thing. The conversation continues on social media at Metropol TVKE. Here's the thing. You'll find him there. You'll ask him those questions. And what I know from my social media manager is that all the conversations that we've had from the first day to where we are today, they are getting processed. And you shall be seeing them, helping you understand matters, economy, and the weight of your money in the pocket, isn't it? We take a short break here on Business AM, hoping that our director shall have solved the big screen so that we get a glimpse of what is happening on social media. And then after that, remember today it is Investment Monday. Here's the question. Where do you take your money in this economy? Is it real estate? Is it banking? Is it bonds and stocks? Or is it stocks and bonds? A very, very important conversation to follow right after this break.